Hello, hello. Good morning, bom dia. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Bom dia in Portuguese. My brain's still switching between two
Hello.
languages. Hey, Tiago. Good morning, good afternoon to you, right?
Yeah, it's afternoon here. Hey, Armando. Good morning for you.
Morning. So, welcome all of you who are following our Fabric Talks series, the second series. This one with myself and Tiago. We are on our fifth episode of the series, and today is going to be a great talk. We had four previous ones. If you have not watched the other ones, please go ahead and check the playlist. Get the link here after the live, and check the playlist. Check the other four ones. We're talking about the Delta table structures and performance tuning. And Tiago is the security master. He's giving us all the locks and the keys, right, Tiago?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm the master, but I'm getting there.
Armando Lacerda is my name. Tiago is my friend. I am a Microsoft MVP and independent consultant. And Tiago?
Hey, I am a product manager in Microsoft Fabric. So I work for Microsoft where I help my customers work with Fabric. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, Armando.
Yeah, great. Thanks for taking the chance and be here with us. And today it's a great topic. I really like this one because Power BI since the beginning, Power BI has always been cloud first, public internet first, has always been facing the public internet. But customers everywhere, they're like, I like to make my conversations and to keep my conversations private. So I need a way to keep my Power BI private too, and there was not a chance until not long ago, right, Thiago?
Yes, I would say I am not coming from the Power BI world, but I heard that a lot from customers that are using Fabric now, and they come from Power BI world. So it's really one of the greatest features that Fabric has released. And honestly, customers are using that. And that's make this feature pretty good. And one thing that we need to always talk it's about security. So security is everywhere. It's important to you think about security. It's a first step. And that's where what we are going to talk today and see how things has changed since the Power BI and now with Fabric.
There we
So
go. Yeah,
yeah,
because again, data is what's specific to each company, right? They generate the data as they do their business. So if you
yes,
don't protect your data, you are like leaving your money on the on the open air, right, on the fence, and whoever wants to get in there will take your money, and that's not a good sight. So I'm
exactly.
excited about it. What do you have for us today?
So let's start with some questions for you, Armando.
All right,
So,
shoot them up.
how frequent do you think about security in your projects? And what are your concerns about security? Let's start with this.
Right. How frequent do I think about security? I have a developer background, and to be very honest, I don't. From a developer standpoint, you want to get the process going, and then you think about security. So for a very long time in my career, security was an afterthought. But as we grow up on the things and as things gets more connected, now security is kind of at the front of my system designs and system implementations. To be honest, lately I've been hired to a project where I do have to think about secure the front end. So I may be off the curve here a little bit, but I do think of
Okay,
security a lot.
so that's great. That's great, and you should always think about security at the beginning of your project. So, but talking about security, it's a broad topic.
Oh yeah, very
So
broad.
we have been talking about the different layers of security, and today I want to bring another layer that's related to network. So when you think about what exactly you want to protect, you have to think about two main factors: the data itself and from whom you want to protect your data. So as you said at the beginning, Power BI was first released to a public internet access only,
Yep.
now Fabric. But things has changed, and now we can make it privately. So first thing, that customers were having concerns about the data being exposed publicly or going to the public traffic,
Hmm.
go to the internet. They want to make things secure. That was the first concern. So second concern is sometimes we have people in our team that are exfiltrating data that they are not supposed to take this data. So we have two different angles to tackle here. From an external perspective, data going through the internet, but we can also think about our internal teams. So how you are going to protect your data to not being exposed to people that should not have access, or someone just get the data.
I want to step back a little bit on what you said
Yeah,
before. You said that now you're gonna show us security and privacy at the network level, right? On
right.
network security. So that's kind of a in contradiction with Fabric is, because Fabric is a software as a service, and when you are doing software as a service, you're not thinking about infrastructure, and networking is an infrastructure. So I think
Yes,
it's a big upgrade for Fabric, right? Because now we are talking about compliance and network isolation, which is something that most people don't think about.
exactly. And that's a great point. So Fabric is a software as a service. So you don't have to think about how you're going to manage your VNets and so on. But in you when you try to work with Fabric from other perspective, let's say an Azure perspective, you do have VNet to manage, and you do have services that's going to connect to Fabric, or you sometimes you have to connect from Fabric to other services. So how you protect that? And something that we are going to see is I was not, let's say, I don't consider myself a network guy. So I always been struggling with network concepts. But how do we protect the inbound and the outbound connections to the fabric? And that's what we are going to see. So,
I'm dying to see what you're going to show, but let me see if I got this right.
sure.
Fabric without the features you're going to show is still secure,
It's
right?
still
We're
secure. It
still
is
secure.
still compliance with a lot of requirements from many different organizations and so on. So
But
it's still compliance.
if I have a requirement or a regulation that tells me that my the users of my workspace and my reports and everything else in Fabric must come from within my company's network, that's what you're going to show us, right?
Exactly. So if you
Got
have
it.
the requirements like that, so for example, we are going to see that, but you need to access Fabric only from a specific VNet. So how you do that? So you are still securing your workspace. You're still having all the compliances, all the regulations in Fabric, but you are going to put an extra layer to your security. So this
I'm
is
dying to
what
see
we are
that. I
going to
want to
see.
see that.
Let me put this to the stage. So let's start with private link, workspace private link. So And the first thing that I want to start with is private link. It's also as known as inbound network protection. So you are going to protect your Fabric workspace from the sources that can connect to the Fabric. So you're going to tell, okay, what exactly, or what are the sources, what are the services that can connect to my workspace. So the data is incoming to Fabric. That's the main concept for Workspace Private Link. So you can think something like that. You have your Azure world here, and then you have many different VNets. For example, you have your VNet for your company, and you want to protect and you want to allow only people within this VNet to be able to connect to the Fabric tenant. So Fabric tenant, it's one layer. Okay, we previously had this private link at the tenant level, so everything was in this box.
Right.
That caused a lot of issues because it's everything or nothing.
It's all or nothing. Yep.
Exactly. So with the workspace private link, we are going to be granular. We can tell, okay, only this and that workspace is going to work with private links. So you can connect it to this workspace if you are using this specific net. Or, for example, your services. Let's say you have a Snowflake. Okay? You have a Teradata database. So, and then you have your VNet, and you want to connect this data to the Fabric workspace. So this is what we called Workspace Private Link. The data is coming into Fabric.
Right.
So how we're going? Yeah.
Most Fabric people are not that Fabric and Power BI people, right? They're not very into infrastructure, like you said. I don't consider myself a network guy and things like that. But if we show this to our network administration, and like you said, if you have a Snowflake that's being hosted in Azure or someplace else that is already connected to that VNet, the network administrator will be very happy because it doesn't have to open a firewall door for Power BI to get in there, right? They can connect directly, like you're showing there, through the VNet. Is that correct?
Is that correct? And even better, the traffic is not going to the public internet. It's going to be routed to the Microsoft backbone. So this is what makes it private. So basically, with private links, we have two different ways. You can still work with public access, and you can also deny public access. What makes it different is the connection, where, like I said, so the connection from your source is going through private tunnel.
Gotcha.
Okay, but your access as a user, it can be publicly. Okay, so but sometimes you need to restrict that access. No one from the internet has access to the workspace. So everything goes through your VNet. Everything goes through your infrastructure. So this layer brings to us a lot of security. So just to be clear here, in this diagram, you can see there is a relation between one private link services and one workspace. That's important to understand.
So what you're showing, it's amazing. Like I can have everybody coming from the public internet, everybody come from the private VNet, both of them or none of them. I think none of that doesn't make sense, right?
none of them doesn't make sense, but you can mix them. That's important.
That's very flexible. They did
That's
a good job on this one. I like it.
Yeah. So, and it's important to understand that, for example, in this diagram, so you are in the VNet B. You have different private endpoints.
Mm-hmm.
Each private point is linked to one private link services for the workspace. So that's the relation we need to have. And this private link service is linked to one workspace. So the same private link can be hosted in a different, oh, no, let's make it different. So a one private endpoint can, from one VNet, can be linked to a different private linked service. So
That's even more flexible. I really like it.
yeah, exactly. So, and that's what it's important here. And for me, at the beginning, I struggled a lot to understand what income means. So, income traffic means that the data that goes to Fabric. So, can be your ADLS, can be your VNet, can be your let's say Snowflake or Databricks or whatever you guys have.
Mm.
Okay, so the setup it's not trivial. It required a lot of network stuffs. But if you work with your network guys, this is going to be straightforward. Okay, our documentation is also really good on that.
I'm gonna check it out. I'm holding you to that one.
Definitely.
I'm gonna check it out.
It's not something that I am able to set up in 20 minutes because it's required a lot of steps, but
Mhm.
you can do that. You can do that. So this is the first point, Armando. Well, so we are securing our data that is entering into the fabric. So, but now let's think that our data is already there, and we need to protect the data to be exfiltrated from the workspace. The data cannot leave the workspace. The data cannot be, let's say, shared with resources that are not allowed. So the workspace outbound access protection. So I'm going to call it this OAP. It's easier. Okay. So the OAP, it means to outbound access protection. This is the opposite from private link. So the data it's moving away from your workspace into somewhere. So this is another feature that customers wanted a lot. With the OAP, you now can block people, or not, I would say not people, you can block your data to be shared outside of the workspace, or your data will only leave the workspace if you allow that services. So
Yeah, looking at the map here on the side here, this diagram you have, it's yeah, it means keep my conversation private, right? Keep my data
exactly,
movement
my data,
in private. Yeah, perfect.
yeah, my data it's always private and always security. For example, from this diagram, workspace A has OAP enabled, meaning that there is a managed VNet that is on us. And this VNet, it's not able to connect to public internet. However, if I create a managed private endpoint through another service, I am going to be able to use that. For example, I want to take my data out of the workspace and put this in a SQL. This
Nice.
is where the manager private endpoint will come in play. So this is a managed private endpoint. It's a managed by the service. So, for example, in the workspace B, okay, we need to connect to SQL to ADLS as well. What we need to have? We need to have two different managed private endpoints, one
Right.
to each service. So these scenarios is going to protect, and I'm be in control of what I can expose and to whom I can expose. This is really important. So it's kind of I am locking my data in a situation where if I put these two features together, so I lock my entire workspace. I only allow sources that I know that I can bring data to Fabric, and I am just allow destinations where I can put the data from my workspace.
Right.
And the third scenario that I wanted to bring here, if I needed to connect it from the workspace B to the workspace C, workspace B has OAP enabled, but workspace C doesn't have. This is not going to work differently. Even if you are inside of the same tenant, if you are working in a different workspace, my workspace B it's locked. I need to have a private link services for the workspace C. What we have seen previously, it applies here as well. So even inside of Fabric, to communicate between different workspace, you need a private connection.
Uh-huh.
So this is really important to understand. And honestly, when we show this to security teams, they really like it and they really want to use it.
That's
So
what they use in the infrastructure. We don't see it from Fabric mostly because we are in the software as a service sphere, but under the hood, this is what they do. So, like you said, when they show this, they're like, "Yes, now you're talking the same language."
exactly. So that's the point. And it's really great to have a security guy in the conversation. So sometimes architects or data architects, developers, they sometimes don't understand what is important and how to make it. So the security guy will help you in your journey. So with these two features, we can completely lock your workspace.
Perfect.
That's amazing. That's a feature I have been waiting for. So the engineering team has been working on this for almost a year, and it's finally here. It's really finally here. So it has been released at least 1 month ago, but I already have customers using this in production. So
Hmm.
it's really great to see this feature.
I bet they're happy.
They are really are. So of course, which all those features have some limitations. There is a roadmap to unblock all those limitations, but it's something that you need to think. It's a journey. It's really a journey until you reach your security.
Pretty cool.
So, any questions, Armando, from the chat? So, how it's going?
We have just people saying hi. Carlos Robles from
Hey, Carlos,
LinkedIn.
it's good to have you here, bro.
Yeah,
Carlos is it's a friend of mine.
there we go. So yeah, we have just people saying hi from both channels. No questions.
Okay, okay, sounds good. Cool. What else we can talk about security, Armando? So, what is your thought about that? So, tell me.
Yeah, this is, I mean, like we've been talking, this is perfect because I have a lot of customers, not many. I mean, not that. Let me say it again. I have a lot of customers, not just a few. I have a lot of customers who will be like I said, will be waiting for this for a long time. Like they have regulations that belong to industries where there are some criterias and regulations, and if you go out of those regulations, they can be fined. And they're like, I cannot use Fabric yet because I don't have what you just showed. And now they're like, okay, let's try this out. So yeah, it's a long time due feature in Power BI in Fabric.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a good way to think about that. It's we always heard about data is the new oil, data is the new gold. So you must protect your data. You must have a way to tell that your data is secure.
Yep.
So, for let's think about Lakehouse. So we know that Lakehouse is one of the biggest change in the big data recently.
Mm-hmm.
Warehouse, it's already there as well, so we can have a warehouse on the OAP, on the private links, and so on. So when we have these two items protect, our data is protected.
That's the big deal. Hey, Thiago, I got a question here
Sure.
from one of the person watching live. It's a long one. So let's read it together. In the scenario where you need to share your data from workspace B to workspace C, as your diagram shows, it needs to be done through Azure Private Link service. Is that traffic going through is going to be counted against egress traffic, with which is not always free for Azure, as far as I know? That's a good question. I
That's
think
that's
from
a
workspace B.
really great questions, and honestly, I don't know the answer. If
I,
this is going to be counted against egress traffic and
from my
fabric.
perspective, if you have data and you want to use data from workspace B to C, the data is in one lake, so there is no VNet traffic going there. It's all in Fabric. If you bring your scenario back in, the data goes through the VNet when it comes from external services like the data lake and everything else in there. If the data is already in one lake, the private link is not in place.
Yeah, I will follow up this question, and please, if you want, to just send me the message on the LinkedIn because
Yeah,
that's a great question. So, and
bring your diagram again. Let's take a look just quick.
yeah,
So there you go. Workspace B and C, they all belong to the tenant. So the data is in one lake. So if workspace B needs to see data from workspace C, a shortcut. It's what you need. You're gonna make a shortcut, and off you go.
exactly,
So
exactly.
there is no VNet traffic in there. The VNet is to allow for private connections in between the workspaces and the
Actually,
Azure.
there is a managed VNet in place in the workspace B. So in order to communicate, we needed to go to this private link service that's outside. So that's why I just want to follow up. But you can be right, Armando.
Mhm.
It's as I said, that's a great question. I
It
need
is.
to follow up.
I love it.
Yeah, I really love it.
All right. Thank you, Isnar. And Thiago will follow up with you.
That's great. Thanks, Zach.
All right. So we are on time. That was a great explanation of the feature, Thiago. And I think we're all excited about using it and have it going on. To be honest, I have tested it in a few customers, and for the folks following along here, There is a little service in Fabric that's not that much popular. It's popular among other data integrations outside in the open source world, and it has found its way into Fabric called Airflow. This thing is not available for Airflow yet. So look into documentation, you see that. I checked that out. Thiago and I had some conversations about that one earlier. So yes, this all works great, but every time you're going to use something in Fabric, make sure you go follow the documentation, make sure that the service you're going to work with is supported in the infrastructure feature you're looking for, right? In this case, Airflow and Private Link, they someday will come together, I hope, but for now they're not there, right, Thiago?
Exactly. So as I said, every feature has some kind of limitation. So we are going to announce some changes in the Ignite. So stay tuned.
Oh, there are
So
news for next week.
there are news
Ignite is
coming
next
for
week.
that.
Actually,
And
our last Fabric Talk session here will be next week, and I will be at Ignite.
oh, nice,
So
amazing.
we'll have this conversation from Ignite.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you, Thiago, so much for the session today. Folks who are following along, thank you for the questions. Thank you for saying hi. And please leave your comments, follow us along on YouTube and LinkedIn. Leave your comments, do your liking below. And we see you next week.
Yeah, thank you.